Good afternoon from Bali, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I wanted to start with this awesome quotation by a speaker and author that I mentioned in the last video, and it's Ram Dass. I just think it's such a beautiful quotation. It says, "The ego ages, the soul evolves, and to the awareness, capital A, nothing happened." To the awareness, nothing happened. So ego ages, the soul evolves, and to awareness, nothing happened. So I come back to some other ideas that I've been sharing recently with you. And this was about, if you've been watching, things like sleep, deep sleep, and the awakened state. And awakened, I should just say the waking state. I'm hoping that we will awaken through these sorts of awarenesses today, or as soon as you are ready. So I thought I'd share this quotation also with, it's from Ramana Maharshi, and I think this is a very meaningful quotation to reflect on. It says, "In deep sleep you exist without ego. Then you are free of doubts. Only now, in waking state, ego rises and you have doubts. In deep sleep, you are happy. In waking state, you are unhappy. Find out that state of deep sleep whence you have come." And this is so meaningful in terms of what I'm trying to share with you all, with us all. And honestly, this mind is really starting to grasp and live this experience of understanding how our ego mind does arise with us in the morning. And it is only from that ego space or egoic space that we start thinking of, this is what I have to do, this is who I am, this is my profession, this is how much money I make, this is what I think about that person, this is my opinions, my judgments. This is the traffic in Ubud you might be hearing behind me. And this is an awareness that's telling you. But I will tell you also that this space of understanding is such a beautiful space from which to work with, and especially if you know that meditation is certainly part and parcel of this mind-body's experience and this soul's experience, and I strongly recommend it to anyone. And some people go on to silent retreats. Today I just met a lady from France in Ubud, and I was seeing her meeting her at, I just met her for the first time at the market, and it was so nice to see and nice to hear that she was heading to a retreat. And lots of people that I meet here go to different retreats, and again, it's one of the places that people will go to retreats. You know that I had also created the Menon Center retreat in Canada. But it's a space for healing, and it's a space for meditating. It's a space to get away from the hustle and bustle. And the space we cannot get away from is our own mind. And so truly the intention behind meditation is to get beyond this ego space, this egoic space that just arises with us in the morning, and we carry it throughout the day. And whether we are aware or not aware of its function, meditation time can help us calm the mind, relax the mind, have peace in the mind, to then do things like contemplation and reflection. And it's only through contemplation and reflection that we can actually get to a deeper space of understanding ourselves and our divine selves, is of course what I'd like us to start to become more aware of. And this, I thought I'd read another quote to remind you about. This says, "The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature." The three modes of material nature. And again, the spirit soul. So remember, the soul is actually part of that deep sleep space. It's actually with that seed of egoic energy that we carry, that we're aware of carrying, if we do choose to have an awareness of, oh, this is my ego. And it's also the same space that soul space is, or whether we say Atman, or we say higher consciousness or pure consciousness, same space. So that space, is literally the space that's with us throughout every mode of our life. It's in deep sleep, in sleeping or dreaming state, and in waking space. And all of that, our spirit soul, which is Atman, which in the last video, I called the super soul. And some people would think of it as super consciousness. Some people might think of it as just pure consciousness. So many different words, or that God space. This is the same space that is being talked about. This quotation is from the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3 and verse 27. I'll read it one more time so you can hopefully hear it and reflect on it carefully in your own time and space. This says, the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Three modes of material nature. You might think, I wonder what those three modes are, because they're all coming through this form. And I thought I'd share with you, that I mentioned that I would talk more about ego. And ego, another name for ego in Sanskrit, it's Ahankar. And I kind of foreshadowed that in the last video too. And in Ahankar, I got this great little simple way of sharing this with you in this video. This quotation, this definition, I'll say, is about Ahankar. And it says, what are the three types of Ahankar? And it says that there are three types of ego: tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. Now, you might not know these terms. So, tamasic is a little bit more lazy, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more irritable, a little bit more perhaps judgmental, but judgmental can come up in another form too. But it's more the not active energy. It's a very slow energy, and we actually need tamasic energy to allow us to have a good sleep. So we carry all three of these types of ego that actually help our human form. So this tamasic is this resting sort of energy, but not resting with like activity in the mind. It's literally, I don't want to think about that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to. So people who will be, one could say that could be a stubborn space, but you can imagine that we need to be in a space that's very not looking at trying to accomplish something or say something or be something, anything, not in that activity mode. So this is that resting mode, I'll call it loosely, which is known as tamasic. And rajasic is the active mode. It's where we actually need actions. When we're actually, whether learning, so it could be learning through videos or learning through books, or whether we're learning about how to graduate from our whatever profession or schooling, or whether we're acting our daily jobs, that's rajasic. It needs energy, it needs a bit of strength and a bit of fire behind us, and that's rajasic. And sattvic, even if it's reading, is more about things that build the spirit. So sattvic could be, even watching this video, things that help to evolve our soul. And then, of course, help our life, daily functions too. But this sattvic, tamasic, rajasic also are the three qualities of food. It's the three qualities of everything that exists in our world experience. And so each thing is said to have these three qualities, and so do humans. So you would think, oh, okay, so we don't really think about thinking in a rock, yet we know that the energy of it is just keeping it very tamasic. It's just sitting stable. If we think about this rajasic energy is within it, there is rajasic. It's just not expressed at all. And so with us too, that rajasic might come up in our dreaming state, where we're doing something, we're going somewhere, we're seeing something, we're being something, we're talking to someone, we're feeling something. All of that is rajasic. And tamasic is like I'm just, I was like, I had this dream of, I was just kind of laying back, and that's the tamasic space that's coming through that dream space. And then the sattvic is, again, more related to spiritual, and foods will have different qualities. So Ayurvedic medicine will talk about this too, that foods will have these energies. You know that I've got a background in Chinese medicine, and even though I've learned a little bit of Ayurvedic, I see that there's a lot of similarity between Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, but it also talks about different qualities of food. Now, this 3 states. I did these 3 types of Ahankar. I actually have talked about these 3 times, or these 3 types of ego in previous videos, so I'll put a link to those under this video. But in my next video, I'll talk a little bit more about these 3 states of ego. And I wanted to remind you about, some of you know that I had some training, 6 months of training with Eckhart Tolle, and through his work at least. And I will tell you, his work has definitely influenced a lot of my beginning of this more seriously, this spiritual direction, this understanding of myself, or thyself, of all of us, of human nature, and how to overcome our egoic tendencies. I would say I will give Eckhart Tolle good credit for really encouraging that direction with my experience with him. So this quotation is from him, and it says, "The moment you become aware of the ego in you, it is strictly speaking no longer the ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist." So let's say I have an awareness that, I really like, and I really do like my afternoon naps. And yet, I don't always need a nap. I don't feel that I need a nap. I've always liked afternoon naps since, I'd say, teenage years. Yet, I don't always need one. And when I'm aware of this, I don't really need one today. My mind can actually look at itself and say, "Oh, wow, I normally like this time for a nap, but at the same time, I don't really need one." And that awareness allows me to take the rajasic action of, I will do something instead because I can get this done, or I can speak to this person, or I can go here, or I can finish this, or anything. Or I can go into sattvic, and it's a conscious decision. I know that I carry all 3 of these energies with me, but I make a conscious decision. As soon as I am aware of it, I don't get led by unconscious patterns of behavior. So if I'm used to sleeping at a particular time for a nap, you might have these sorts of patterns too. If anything, I'm used to eating at a particular time, I'm used to calling someone at a particular time, I'm used to going somewhere at a particular time. When I start having an awareness and do it consciously, it's very different than the unconscious space of, I just do this, it's that time, and I should just do this. And that's such a beautiful space of awareness. This awareness is, again, what I just mentioned in the other quote too. I want to make sure that you also understand that why are we even trying to get past this ego space? Because many people already know this, that, I don't want to be in that ego space. As I know ego's not good. So people know this, kind of. They don't really understand why. And I want to make sure that I mentioned in this video this too, because I also loved this quotation. Even though it's by an anonymous writer, it says, "Ego judges and punishes. Love forgives and heals." Ego judges and punishes. Love forgives and heals. So you can imagine, same idea. Let's use the same example. I don't feel so tired in the afternoon, and I normally take a nap at a particular time. And I have an awareness of, I'm not so tired, but it is kind of the time that I like to nap. My ego would say, you probably could have finished something, either at the time that I'm taking the nap or right after I wake up. I would say, I could have finished this or that or anything. Love just looks at it and says, okay, you decided to have a nap even though you didn't really need it. It's okay. It's okay. This okay space is a space that the mind and ego will not allow us to work from. And this is not to okay anything. If a person is napping most days, I hear a lot of parents that talk about this with their teenager experiences. When they're raising teens and they're like, I don't see them doing anything. They're just in their room and they're just sleeping, or they're on their cell phone, and on their cell phone they might be more rajasic, and on sleeping time they might be more tamasic. Either way, we can also be the awareness that understands that that's the space that this mind is in right now. We can also send loving energy to help ourselves and them, because it helps ourselves when we send loving energy to anyone. Rather than coming from the judgmental spot for ourselves or others, we can use that same divine energy of awareness. I am aware that this person is sleeping a lot, and I'm just going to send love. This is forgiving and healing, rather than, you should have done this. And many parents will do this after a child has slept for, half the day, after not doing so much in the day morning, and then half the day they're sleeping, and then don't really feel like doing anything in the afternoon and even the night, unless, something really exciting comes up, and then they might want to do it. But most parents that I've spoken with I hear more about kind of that laziness perspective. They're not doing anything in the morning, they're sleeping half of the day, and then nighttime they're hardly doing anything either. I even have to push them to eat food. And just understanding that they're in a tamasic space and sending that forgiving energy, that it's okay. I understand that this is an energy we all carry. That's a space that you're in right now. From an understanding, loving space, a very different energy is shared with family as we can look at them with understanding eyes. As I mentioned, I will talk in the next video about these 3 states again of ego, and recognize that it's carried by everything. Every living sentient being has, and I might even say everything in our environment has these 3 qualities. And then just to look at it and understand it is a very different space than to look at it and judge it. And I think we all know this, but knowing and practicing are 2 very different things. Today, I hope you have a fantastic day ahead. I hope that you will practice this to help yourself and the world around us. I intend to practice this too, so wherever you are in your state of life right now, I accept it, I love it, I forgive you for being there if you're in a space that you feel is not so good, and I send you healing. I wish you a fabulous day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone, or night.